So we got this clip from Donald Trump, who is calling out what's going on with FEMA. Check this out.
That's what's happening. They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants that they want to have vote for them this season. You know, they're trying. That's what's. So
that's you can see this viral tweet. And then Joe Walsh, of course, what is he? He's the Republican for Harris or whatever. He says he flat out lies. And Republican elected officials don't say ish. He's preying on people's worst fears. And Republican elected officials don't say ish. You know what I just can't stand about the current state of politics is that when I saw that tweet, I saw what Trump said. I'm like, FEMA, they stole the money from FEMA? Like, whoa, what was that all about? Oh, Joe Walsh is saying Trump is lying. Let me Google this.
Yeah, check it out real quick.
And what did I find? Yeah, $640 million was spent on the influx of immigrants. And Newsweek has this story. And I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. So why is he saying Trump's lying? Is it that he doesn't know how to Google search things? Or is it that he is a liar who is trying to manipulate people into supporting his political side for whatever reason?
Oh, he's the worst. He's been doing this for years. He has the top 3 Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, I honestly feel bad for the guy because he's hated by everybody.
He's very empathetic.
And he hates everybody.
You know, I think for some people, you can't say that illegal immigration causes any kind of problems, even when it's very clear. Like in this case, $640 million that could have gone to, hurricane relief went somewhere else. The agency in charge of this budget decided how they were going to spend their money, and then they get to issue a dire warning like, we don't have enough money for the next hurricane. And I think that it's one of these breaking points in American culture where a lot of Americans are able to now say, like, I am not anti-immigrant. I am not hateful of people who come from somewhere else. You just can't come here illegally and then use all of our resources. And this is becoming a prime example. So when he's saying Trump lies, I feel like it's that knee-jerk reaction of being like, well, illegal immigration doesn't cause any problems, so you can't say that.
Well, he doesn't believe it. He knows he's lying. He's part of a full grift that he's created in order to stay relevant in a party that passed him by.
But you know what? I think it was Elad Eliyahu, who does street reporting for us over here. He talked with Joe Walsh, and Joe Walsh is very pro-Israel. And Elad was saying that they actually had a connection on that issue. I think it was Elad, but the general idea is Joe Walsh hates Donald Trump, but you can't deny it. I'm sorry. The left right now is split. When you look at the polls, Democrats overwhelmingly do not like Israel. I think support among Democrat voters is 44%. This is not a statement of support for Israel. Y'all can calm down because I know it's very divisive. I'm not trying to be divisive. I'm trying to point out for someone like Joe Walsh, whose principal issue is support for Israel, and that's what he was saying, to side with the Democrats, well, that's opposition to your own ideals just because you hate Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. But let me throw one more out there because, maybe Joe will say, this is wrong. They're mischaracterizing what I'm saying. I'm calling Trump's lies about illegal immigrants voting because Trump does say that they want to have vote for them this season. Well, look, come on. Washington Post says number of Arizona voters missing citizenship proof doubles. Officials say about 218,000 of the state's 4.1 million voters were improperly recorded as having provided proof of citizenship as required to vote in state and local elections. That's the Washington Post.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true. It's true in a number of states.
And the Democrats are filing lawsuits to make sure these people are reinstated. So when Donald Trump says they want illegal immigrants to vote for them, he's being hyperbolic for sure. But Democrats' actions speak louder than words. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna play a game where I come out and say Democrats are trying to get illegal immigrants to vote. But I will say, when Republicans try to remove people who don't have proof of citizenship from the voter rolls, Democrats sue to keep them on.
Well, that's right. And there is a law in place that I think was signed in 1992 by Bill Clinton that says that you cannot remove people from the voter rolls within 90 days of an election. So all of these states that are coming up with this now and realizing what's going on, they are at risk of violating that law and they can be sued. And the DOJ has started lawsuits against some states to prevent them from removing people from the rolls, even if those people are non-citizens. So yes, in a very real way, the Biden-Harris Department of Justice is suing states to require them to keep non-citizens on voter rolls. Mm-hmm. That's just true. Yeah. It sounds hyperbolic and it sounds crazy, just like it sounded crazy that Kamala Harris was backing sex changes for illegal immigrant criminals in prison. But she was, in fact, doing that. Does it sound crazy? Yes. Is it also true? Yes.
I feel like it stopped sounding crazy because how many times did they say we're not doing that. Like anytime the Democratic Party is like, no, we're not going to do that, or no, there are already laws in place to ensure non-citizens aren't registering to vote, so surely they are not doing that.
But if you're not enforcing any of these laws, then it doesn't make any difference what your law is.
If they say something is fine, you immediately have to be like, oh no, we better check that out right now. Like the second Kamala Harris is like, no, I'm not doing anything nefarious, you have to look at her and be like, either you don't know what you're talking about or you're lying. And I think it's the second thing.
Did she not realize that the world would come and go and shift and tides would change to the point where at this point she looks crazy for saying that, even in her own 2024 mindset?
I think it may be possible that she doesn't have an internal monologue.
Right.
You know, that she's not actually thinking things through to the next thing.
I got the perfect debate question to start. If you did not eat breakfast yesterday, how would you have felt? Are you familiar with this meme? No. It comes from a viral post where there was a guy claiming that he did psychological research on prison inmates, and they found that many of the most violent offenders could not understand conditional hypotheticals. So if you asked them, if you did not have breakfast yesterday morning, how would you have felt? They'd go, but I did have breakfast. You go, I understand that. But if you didn't, how would you feel? And they'd go, but I did have breakfast. And so it's an indication of lack of cognitive functions and capabilities. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have been hungry because I was doing a goat cheese omelet with some avocado.
Kamala Harris would say, well, I'm from the middle class. I was raised in the middle class, and breakfast, we didn't always have it, and just completely give you no answer because she
in
doesn't
Westmount, Montreal, they just didn't have those good bagels.
Look, you can't answer these questions.
This Arizona story is actually really crazy, though, and this is why I was talking to Mario Nawfal the other day. We did a really great interview. Sorry, that guy's fantastic. I'm a big fan. He brought a crew. We did an interview. I hope he publishes it because I thought it was great. He asked great questions. But anyway, he asked me why did I think it was that the betting odds favor Kamala Harris despite Trump seemingly having better polls, winning the unions, and shadow campaign. Call it whatever you want, shadow campaign. But explain to me how Arizona gets 218,000 people on their voter rolls who didn't provide the legal proof that is required under state law. Now, look, by all means, come to me and say it's racist to require proof, say blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Fine. Call it whatever you want. But Arizona requires it. So who put in 218,000 people without them providing proof? Whoopsie daisies? Nah, I'm sorry. 218,000 accidents is like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. I don't buy it.
But you're supposed to. That's what bothers me. Like, you are supposed to not question these things. In fact, I won't be surprised if some other report comes out and is like, so many real Americans lost their right to vote because of this unfair law. And then when you dig into it, it's like, well, there are actually people who are here illegally.
Or just dead. Or they're dead people.
I mean, and this is the other thing that bothers me. Like, there is a level of like, when you say, hey, I think we should be really careful about who's voting in our elections and make sure all of our numbers are accurate because we want fair elections. Everyone's like, conspiracy theorist. That's crazy. How could you question this? That's very conspiracy of you.
The other thing, too, though, it's pretty much the only right that American citizens have left. You know, we don't get any of the other ones that, everyone gets all of our rights, which fine. Okay. But like, we at least need to be the only ones getting to vote for them.
Yeah.
That should be a key thing.
And even if half or a quarter of these voters show up and cast a ballot, that could sway the whole state.
Yeah.
Certainly Maricopa County.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is why it's so important that's happening in Arizona, which the Kamala Harris campaign is really pouring a lot of money into. They're attempting to secure it for themselves, and I'd like to see it happen in Nevada, in Michigan, in other swing states because I think Arizona's the most obvious one because it is a border state, but we know that illegal immigration is actually a problem everywhere. Basically, every state is a border state. I mean, how many secret flights do the Biden administration have to schedule in the middle of the night to convince you that they were actually
for people
nefarious?
with no ID just being shipped off?
They were trafficking children.
Yes.
And
they are trafficking children.
Right. Do you guys
This
remember when
is all still happening.
Dr. Phil went on The View and he was like, I talked to the head of the CBP union who said that children are coming in by themselves with numbers written on their arms. They call the number and they know it's a child sex trafficker and they just say, shuffle them on in. We got that report, last week? 660,000 illegal immigrants with criminal records are at large, including murderers, rapists, and robbers.
That included some people who were in prison, but yeah, they're in the United States.
Trump was completely right when he called this out. This is what terrifies me. When people like Joe Walsh lie because they hate Donald Trump, listen, I watched that debate with J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, and I got to tell you, I said it before and I'll say it again. A lot of people in this country probably wished they were the presidential nominees right now, the candidates, because there was that Midwestern kindness, they call it. I have long criticized Donald Trump. I said he's crude and he's crass, but I'll tell you what, I will take mean tweets if it means effective policy and calling out what is actually going on. And that is the truth. J.D. Vance, I am so happy that he's standing alongside Trump, and I'm very excited for 2028.
Right. I would definitely vote for J.D. Vance in 2028 so far.
He had a grand slam at that debate. He redefined himself. I am really impressed. My point is, you can hate Donald Trump all you want, but he's not wrong. And so by all means, Joe or any other person come out and say, yeah, well, he's a dick. And I'd be like, you got me there, but he's right. I'll take right over what we've experienced over the past 3.5 years.
There was another thing, too. 1.7 million illegal immigrants have come in who are on the terror watch list or something like that. That came out today from the House Oversight and like are flagged for crimes. There's and there were other things, too, that now I can't remember because you were talking. I forgot what I was saying.
Well, going back to Vance,
I was praising Trump.
I know.
I think the beauty of Vance in the VP debate was that he was as tailored and sophisticated and well spoken as the left, right? As the left, the general left, and he presented conservatism in a way that is not often stated. He was sharp. He knew how to combat the moderators when they were fact checking. Like, you really felt like this guy had his stuff together, and that's great. And it's kind of, it's similar to Hollywood versus sort of a conservative independent movie, and the well-funded liberal candidate versus the upstart conservative candidate who is sometimes all on his own and fighting for his life every single day, whether it's Trump, whether it's Vance, whatever. But I just thought J.D. Vance knocked it out of the park.
I did too. I also think that no matter what headlines they run, the Harris-Walsh campaign knows J.D. Vance crushed it. There are all these reports coming out that Walsh is about to do several late-night appearances, and now Kamala Harris is about to do a 60 Minutes interview. I mean, they are attempting to give these people the kind of likability that J.D. Vance really cultivated for himself and the general Republican ticket. Because, I think Donald Trump is a once-in-a-lifetime personality. I think it really works in a lot of ways, but it's not for everybody. And right. I think we should move away from I want to get a beer with this person mentality. Like, if he's strong and tough and is going to get us out of all the foreign conflicts and fix the economy, that's good. The 2 months or whatever of this like vibes only, no policies Harris-Walsh campaign is clearly dying out, and now they're thinking, oh, we're actually going to have to put these people in front of basically softball interviews to try and make them as likable as J.D. Vance made his entire party in one night.
Yeah, the other thing, too, you mentioned the fact checks against J.D. Vance, and there was one really telling moment, we were talking about it before the show, where J.D. Vance came out and he was talking about paid child leave, and he talked about his family and the struggles that they went through, and I actually wrote about this for Human Events today, and he talked about the struggles that they had trying to figure out what's the right balance. He praised his wife and her career. He said she was a brilliant litigator, which I thought was really cool. He's so supportive. You've Doug Emhoff out here being praised for being the remaking masculinity while he's like banging the nanny and, slapping his girlfriend at con or whatever. And like, here's Vance being like, my wife is brilliant and she struggles with figuring out she should more time as a mom, more time in the workforce. But what came up in terms of feminism and, stuff for women after the debate was Nicole Wallace slamming J.D. Vance for having spoken over the moderator after she fact-checked him falsely.
That's not what she said. She said he was mansplaining.
Right. He was mansplaining.
How dare he?
If I recall, we were watching the debate on Tuesday night and me and Hannah Claire were both like, yes, mention the CBP One app. We've been digging into that for months. Somebody finally mentioned that in a national way, and he did that, and he was slammed. Why? Not for talking over the moderator, but for presenting facts.
For mansplaining. Come on. We know the real reason.
If only he was sitting down and we could have seen him
mansplaining
spread out.
What happened.
I am, and I'm proud of it.
But think about Vance for a second, okay? This guy, had a unbelievable childhood, right? Rose out of poverty, went to Yale Law School, right? Went and wrote a novel that became a bestseller. then understood Hollywood. Ron Howard directed his life story, right? The access points to all
Amazing.
this. Became a senator, right? This guy should be a roadmap for young men and women in America who want to go and try and make a real difference. But you got to go. You can't just be in your own worlds all day. You have to go and be in Yale Law School and work with Hollywood. You got to get those experiences and things like that. Because if you don't, you don't understand totally how the game works.
And I think being in all of those places is informative. Like, he is used to being in hostile territory where probably his beliefs are not popular. I used to think about this. I grew up in Connecticut, which was super blue, and I have basically been boring and conservative my entire life. So, you kind of get used to not being the majority opinion. I think J.D. Vance is fascinating because the first time I heard about his book, it was from a very, very liberal woman at the all-girls school I worked for who was saying, wow, it's so compelling. I never thought about Americans who live this way.
It had real hipster appeal.
Right. If he can do this for the hipsters, if he can open up Appalachian America for them, what can he do for the rest of the country?
He wins Williamsburg.
And the words in the book didn't change. They loved the book. Now they hate the book.
Yeah. But to Libby's point, he
Nothing
spends so
changed.
much time praising his wife, praising his mom for getting clean, and praising his grandmother. But they label him an anti-woman bigot.
What changed was that he said, Trump's not so bad.
Also,
That's about it.
How great were the memes? How great were the looks at camera?
Good.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.